It's supposed to be just one video focused on the best Max for Life devices, so then I can move on to other topics. Yeah, so I went on a hunt on maxforlife.com, doom-scrolled my library, done some tests, and well, there is more. I even found Pro Q3 replacement for roughly 15% of its price. There is a catch though, but more on that later. Let's focus on free ones first. It's a shame that I never mentioned Force devices here, and the latest free one from them is this delay called
Retur.
The controls are pretty simple, so you have your delay time obviously, then a dry and wet knob, or rather dry and wet dot, but the real fun is once you start to play with repeats. But you also have a control for the tone of your repeats. So those are basically the darker ones, and then we can go to brighter repeats. Then a width parameter or depth parameter. And you know what? With their ease of use, the controls literally ask for automation. Now, name me a better pair for free delay than the free reverb. Now, some may already know Rump, but in case you don't, it's the same story here. You get very easy to use controls here. So that's your dry and wet. Then you can increase the size of this reverb. And while you're doing it, it actually creates a cool pitch shifting effect, which I really like, and it's another thing to use for automations. Then you can make this reverb really huge by increasing this parameter. So we can basically turn it into ambience machine. Then, obviously, for the purpose of mixing and some creative use, you have a high cut and low cut. They also have a paid delay, which I treated myself with. It's called bokeh, and for now let's just decrease the amount of reverb and increase the delay. So it's basically a dual engine delay with an option to blur the sound to the point that it's barely recognizable. The cool thing is that you can also shift those delays. Add some feedback. And this one may be longer. Now, before it will start to feel like a 4-sat, which by any means it's not, I need to mention their synths and sequencers. Not exactly my cup of tea, but the cool thing is that you usually get more than one device inside the package. I was on a fence of getting Diet just to try this distortion, but then I found this thing for free. It's technically not a distortion unit, but it puts one of the best stock devices on steroids. In case you missed my video about Roar, you can do some crazy shit with feedback. But the coolest thing is that you can also tune it by changing the feedback mode to note. So let's actually change it to our root note, which is G sharp. Now, if you ever thought it would be cool to make it follow the MIDI notes from your melody, then well, just drag this device before Roar, select MIDI input, and in my case that's gonna be 23 Serum, and voila. But from my tests, the real fun starts once you trigger it with another MIDI inside your session, and here I'm gonna actually trigger it with my melody, which is actually a little bit simpler but harmonic to this bass lead. You can blend between direct and feedback shaping, so let's actually make this feedback shaping a little bit quieter. But with distortion and saturation, things get wild and squashed really quick. It's okay for me, but if you want to save your dynamics, there's actually another free device for that. Yup, it's totally possible, but since it's on a nerdy side of things, I would like to save it for my video about clipping that I'm planning. By the way, let me know down in the comments if you want to watch something like that. But going back to sound design, I have this cool little Max for Life synth, which I can't show you yet, but it's based on a legendary mono synthesizer. If you're too young to enjoy mono, then you probably have no idea what Eventide H3K is. But no worries, because the Max for Life version of it makes everything lush and stereo. Just drag this mix knob up, and we are already getting a beautiful and stereo image. Let's just detune it a bit. And then you can switch between 3 different modes or presets, just like an original version of it. But you know what, as I listen more and more to this lead line, I think it's a little bit too harsh, and thanks to your suggestions and comments, we can actually deal with that with, surprise surprise, yet another free Max for Life device. And it's already doing a drastic change to the sound, so let's actually bring it up, since I don't want to cut this many highs. Or you know what, with those controls we can actually drag it down again, then check what we are cutting, and then decrease the amount of reduction with dry and wet setting. Now, before we move to some of the most advanced device, I need you to stand up. For real, yeah. Stand up, do a couple of squats, like this. Oh, fuck! And then click the like button, so I know you don't have a sleep timer on. I need to be honest, this next device kinda grew up on me once I started to use it properly. The power of MPE is still a little bit underrated, especially if you are a keyboard, mouse and click notes warrior. But MPE envelope closes this gap. So at first it looks like a native shaper, which is a cool device, but take a note that every single modulator device inside Live works by modulating the parameters for all of your notes. MPE is polyphonic, even by name, and if you still have no idea what I'm talking about, let me actually show it to you and explain what it does. Let's actually go inside the synth and let's say automate the low pass frequency with pressure, since it's already here. Let's drag it to 100%. And now inside MPE envelope, change the slider to pressure. And you can hear it's already doing something, but it's not that big of a difference than the basic shaper. But once we change some parameters, so let's just actually make this window a little bit bigger. Let's just actually stick with this booby kind of shape here, and if that's the first time you saw boobs, then I'm really sorry for you, but anyways. It's triggered by notes, but I have this longer note here, so it basically runs through this whole automation for pressure, but the shorter notes are actually playing without this automation. And I thought, well, it's cool, but once I switch to slide, it basically has the same envelope, which does nothing for my sound. But then I had a genius idea that you actually can duplicate MPE envelope and have a totally different shape for slide. By the way, you have some predefined shapes here, so let me just double it for the sake of testing things out. So those are just quick tests, but feel free to play with it however you like, and I bet you gonna start to love MPE automations. Without a doubt, Pro Q3 is a industry standard. It also has an industry price, so I bet some got it from another vendor. But just for you to stay away from shady sites, you can try this equation device. And you know, at first it does nothing, but once I start to add bands, then we can switch on the display. Yeah, so you might say it's just like a basic EQ. What's really special about that? Well, once I switch on the gain reduction parameter, set the threshold, yeah, you got it right. We now have a dynamic EQ inside Live. But what's even cooler, it also has an option to make some cuts and boosts in stereo, left, right, mid and side, just like Pro Q3. You can also make a floating window and make this display a little bit bigger, and then you can control all of those curves here. I know it's a little bit less than Pro Q3, but to be completely honest with you, if you need more than 6 or maybe 7 curves, then you probably need to get back to mixing and then fix problems there. But as you may see, I needed to switch to Live 11, and that's actually the case here because I experienced some weird bugs with the UI in Live 12. But no worries, I'm in a constant contact with developer and we actually trying to fix this issue. So I think the newer version won't have this bug and you will be able to use it in any version of Live. Unfortunately, there are more Max for Live devices, but please don't force me to make a third video week after week. I will definitely cover some more in future, but for now, if you missed the first part,